And welcome to another episode of Tamara Tonite. We're here in the suburbs. Yeah, we're in the suburbs, down south this time. Look, that could be anywhere between Brisbane and Beenleigh. You take your pick, or it could even be a bit further west than that. And we're hiding away. I've got a little bottle of little glass. What are we drinking? A little glass of...
Blush.
Blush.
Blush. You can wear it, you can drink it.
A little bit of blush, and you're saying, who the hell's this person that Tamara's sitting with? This is Lance Leopard. Now, we last saw Lance, it was about a year and a half?
I think maybe 2 years ago.
It was just before Diva, last year, I think.
Yes.
And Lance was actually pretending he was returning to Brisbane. Of course, that was the biggest joke that ever. But the thing is that Lance is as good as returned because some terrible things have happened. We're actually talking about very serious issues today, mostly violence and that sort of issue, which is really important, especially what's happened to you. Now, Lance, you're based in Sydney.
Well, yes, and I have been for some years. I came back the last time just to have some fun. See my friends in town, and we did, didn't we? See my friends in town and kick my heels up down here with my mother Carmel and my niece Ophelia. But this time I came up to have a series of surgeries because I'd been the victim of a vicious gay hate attack in Surrey Hills in Sydney, and it's become quite a problem. And I wanted to come onto the show and just jam about it for a little while and see what's going on up here and explain what I've done after it.
I don't know what's going on up here because the Anti-Violence Council, as far as I know, here is non-existent. I could be wrong. If I am, I apologise. But
well, I was going to ask you because you're a bit of a political animal up here, darling.
Under a different name these days.
I see.
Remember they banned me. Don't forget they took my name off the electoral roll.
Oh, the bastards! Why?
Well, because it was inappropriate and not in the public interest.
I'm part of the public, and it's very interesting to me.
Actually, I saw somebody on Jerry Springer the other day called Bud Green, who was pro-marijuana. Perhaps Mr. Nigel Free Marijuana should change his name to Bud Green. He might get away with it. There's hardly anything innocuous about Bud Green, is there?
But no, you could roll him.
I think we've all been the attack of some sort of violence or attack in Sydney. You were walking through Surrey Hills in daylight.
Yeah, daylight, broad daylight at 10 in the morning, and it happened to me years ago, and I did nothing about it. I didn't report it, which you must do. I just hid.
Did you know who did it last time, or did you know anything about them? Or?
Oh, they were a gang last time. This time I just heard footsteps and literally woke up in hospital.
And how many hours later?
Oh, I don't know. The whole thing went through a morphine blur for a few days.
Now, do you know how many were involved?
No idea.
You don't know anything about it, so you're walking on the street in Surrey Hills.
I wasn't robbed, so I know it was a gay hate attack because I had money on me and my keys and my address on me, and it was very near to where I live. So if there was a that sort of motive couldn't have existed.
Now,
I'm sorry, I have a little trouble talking with this.
No, because you're still all...
The metal, I'll show you the metal.
Oh, it's
rather nasty.
Because they actually kicked you in the face, didn't they? Pushed you.
Well, no, I got pushed from the back and it all landed on there. So there's a bit of a scar here too, a bit of a rod in there.
It's not a broken jaw and...
Yes. This is rather nasty business, but I thought this time I'm not going to lie around and I'm going to do something about it. So I contacted the Anti-Violence Project, who are a wonderful, wonderful project in Sydney who don't make much loot and they desperately need funding. And instead of becoming a victim, I've become their events coordinator.
She was saying, because you used to... See, Lance is a newspaper journalist and reporter and public figure and nightclub operator and all sorts of stuff. Was very active in the community in Sydney.
How many hats can you wear?
Well, 63, I think, in your case. Well, maybe 64
now. And over a good
now.
hairdo, darling.
Well, really?
Even
the grey roots aren't showing, so you've done very well.
No. They touched me up in the hospital beautifully. I actually had a few other things done too.
Oh, did you?
I can't. But I won't reveal. We won't go into that.
Perhaps there was a restoration took place there as well. Now, what actually happened? Were the police good and helpful?
The police were wonderful. They came to my hospital bed and I had to write out my statement on a lecture set. You know those things that children write on a race because I was completely wide at that time, and not wide in the way that people are wide in nightclubs. No, not at all.
I must have asked them how they managed that one.
I just blinked a lot and wrote on my little lecture set. And of course my mother flew straight to my side and stayed with me every minute and brought me straight up here. And I've organised already our first benefit for the Anti-Violence Project.
In Sydney?
Yeah, it's in November and big names are attracted to it. And I'm really, because I do have that profile as a journalist and being, well known, I can do it. And so... It's an ugly thing that I'm turning into a good thing.
Well, it's probably a good way of doing it. Now, the Anti-Violence Council, as I said, I don't know if we've got one here in Brisbane. Obviously, we probably do need one or something of this thing.
Well, there's a wave of it in Sydney at the moment. I don't know what's going on up here because I've been
Well, yes, the ride.
Relaxing down here in Cypress Park.
How does the Anti-Violence Council work in Sydney? What does it do? What does it aim for?
Well, the funny thing was, about 3 weeks before the attack, I had this huge, the Stonewall Pride week that they have every
Back in
week.
July.
Yeah. My night, I was allowed to give my money to any charity I wanted, and I chose them, and I made $8,000 that night, and they've spent that money on self-defence courses at Town Hall. But
So anyone can go to these self-defence courses and learn. That's fantastic.
Learn how to fight back. But the dreadful thing is, when I went in to do some work and to give them the flyers that I'd organised for them, and I basically didn't even ask them if I could do it for them. I just did it and said, I'm giving you this money. And they said, thank you. And there's not even a fax machine in there. And nothing against the AIDS Trust. I've done lots of hard work for them, but the Anti-Violence Project really need some high profile, some loot, maybe a fax machine in their office, maybe a secretary. Wonderful boy who runs it called Brad.
Do some stuff down there. Now, do you want to look at doing anything up here to get one started here? Or
I'd love to do something up here. If they've found us a sponsor, Montana Wines, so they could be helpful in doing something up here.
Look, I'll put you in touch with the people in the papers too. We should get together and talk about this before you get. Now,
you know people, you know everyone up here.
How long? Well, almost everybody. Well, perhaps those worth knowing, like
Don't
Lance.
make me laugh. I've got steel in my.
Sorry, better than steel in your head or lead in your pencil.
No, you've got a point. You've got a point.
How long are you here for?
As long as it takes.
No, so it could be a few more months yet.
I'm not sure. I have to be back there, of course, in November for the event, but I basically organised it from here.
Good.
Everyone's responded and said yes, and as long as it takes.
Good. Well, I'll get in touch with the papers and we'll talk during the week about
Absolutely.
something here. So watch out, we'll actually do something, because violence is a pretty horrible thing. I know I lived
nasty,
my whole life
darling.
in Sydney and never got attacked ever. And once I'd moved up here in '86, and I was working in the valley, not doing that. I was working for the Sun newspaper when it existed, and I was walking home and got attacked at Stones Corner by about 12 boys. Like they're 14, 15 years of age. But when the feet start flying, you can't do anything about it. And the police could or did do nothing. I don't know which it really was, but nothing eventually.
Oh, they're not bad down there. I'm not sure what they're like up here.
Well,
my mother would know more about that.
They would be a lot better now, I think, than perhaps how it was then. But I don't know whether they could or didn't do something. That I don't know. But I know that it left me in a place where for probably 3 or 4 months I was frightened to go out at night. It changes your whole approach on everything. Like you suddenly get frightened weird.
It changed my whole jawline, darling.
You still look as good as ever.
Oh, well, thank God I'm an ex-makeup artist.
you must have had photographs that they've restored you from. We can all go to a plastic surgeon now and look like this. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Practice.
I don't want to be hokey. I don't want to be hokey and bring up the dreadful events in America last week, but that was a hell of a lot of violence. So I think people are going to tune into violence and get rid of it.
Well, I hope we do.
And I'm going to do my bit.
Good.
Yes.
Well, help us do something up here too.
I would love to come up here and do something.
Well, you are here. That's what we're having this for. We'll drink to Lance's full recovery.
And it's lovely to see you, Brisbane. It's nice to be back. It's a lovely place to recover.
With any luck, we've had a little look at Lance walking down by the Story Bridge from your last visit. Remember that?
He's still got
bit trashy, wasn't it? Yes, I've still got it somewhere.
Poignant.
It was probably more noticed, more poignant now, isn't it? Maybe. All right, well, violence. We'll certainly look into this a bit further. Now, coming up, we're going to talk to Carmel, who actually, funnily enough, is Lance's mother, who is the Vice President of the Victims of Crime here in Queensland.
Now, she kicks ass up here.
And she says the F word too, so watch out. So we've got to be very careful about this one.
You make me laugh.
Oh, sorry. Well, you can go away now. Thanks for sharing it, Lance. Sorry, it was such a horrid thing that you had to come on with, though.
Oh, look, the last time was so frivolous and silly. I had to come back with something sensible to tell you, darling.
It was a joke, wasn't it? As we sat there. Remember, we sat there with the Brisbane River behind us, and the camera actually honed in on the light source behind us. We were sitting there like two people with dark complexions. We couldn't be visible. Had to use the computer.
I was talking about my recent divorce. Now I'm glad to be on your show talking about something that means something.
Something that really matters. Lovely to see you again. We're going to a break, and we'll be back. And we're back. The cameraman insisted on filming everything that I said before it came back on again, but it's all top secret, so I can't reveal a word. We're now joined by Carmel Pierce, who's Lance's mother. Now, that wouldn't be something you'd want to be famous for, is it?
It unfortunately does happen, more in Sydney than here.
So you're well known down in Sydney?
Absolutely. I get called Carmel Leopard. I totally lose my real last name in Sydney.
That's all right. Leopard's a good name to have.
I just have to answer to Carmel Leopard and be happy
Pierce
about that.
Leopard, what's in a name anyway? As I'm discovering, I'll be Bud Green before long.
Absolutely.
What do you reckon?
I reckon you should.
Narky old government. Now, Vice President of the Victims of Crime Association of Queensland. Yes. Now, what is the Victims of Crime Association for, and what would somebody want to access it for?
Any victim of any crime in Queensland can access Victims of Crime. It's non-gender specific. We look after men as well as women, and it was started by a man whose daughter was viciously attacked in the 80s, and they discovered to their horror there was absolutely no kind of victim support. You know, and a lot of the community would agree that, you know, offenders are fairly well looked after in the system, and there was just an absolute imbalance with how much was actually done for victims as well. And there was nothing until Ian Davies, through his daughter Shari's efforts and his own, began the Victims of Crime Association. And we've been there since about 1988, 89.
Now, obviously, victims of crime is not just the actual victim of the assault or the attack. It's the family, the friends,
yes, of course,
the
there are
relatives,
secondary victims, of course.
Everybody else will, because there would be. I know that when I've had friends in accidents, that I've been more upset than they have. Yes. They said, "No, but we're okay.
Yeah.
We know we're okay." But it's like the awful fear of suddenly hearing something terrible has happened and having no way of dealing with it.
That's because crime impacts on people in more ways than are, you know, immediately visible. Not just the primary victim. Like, as you said, fear sets in. People get very frightened. They get very nervous. Something happens to their neighbour. Like, it's neighbours' houses are broken into. It makes you nervous.
Sure.
You know, so it affects everybody in the community.
Now, does this association also look at the compensation that's being paid? Because I know that in some
Yes,
cases
it
it's
does.
nowhere near enough for the people who are attacked, and
Yes.
the perpetrators are sent off to jail for a few years and then let off in some cases as though, oh well, that didn't really matter.
Yes,
it would make you feel really important, wouldn't it?
We advise and help people with criminal compensation issues.
Right.
Yeah, legal issues. Just about anything really that you'd need support with after being the victim of a violent crime.
Now, can I ask how you got involved in this?
Yes, my 26-year-old daughter was murdered in 1988, 18th of September. We had her 13th anniversary, very sadly, this week. So it was just something the police advised me to go to. I waited quite a while before I did. It's funny when major crime affects people. Some people are ready to go for help the next morning. Some are ready in a few weeks or a few months' time, and some aren't ready for years. So you can't generalise about it. People are ready in their own time and at their own pace to seek some help. And I went to seek some help and was told that possibly I could be very valuable in because I have some communication skills, and they use them in the best possible way of using, and ended up in this position of State Vice President. I facilitate a statewide homicide support service for victims of homicide, family members and friends.
I have not known anyone who's been murdered. I know
Right.
suicide and death through illness.
Yes, very different deaths.
Sometimes death through illness, when life has come to an end, is very easy. So death through suicide when illness has got too much is very easy to cope with.
Yes.
Suicide is hard.
Very.
Murder must be almost impossible because it's so
Yes.
You would wonder. There were so many things that would run through your own mind.
It's a different kind of loss than any other, because it carries with it a connotation of nightmare, a nightmarish quality, shall we say. Everything else can be accepted, because after every other type of crime there is a victim surviving, possibly very badly damaged, but alive, able to be helped and rehabilitated.
Sure.
But after murder there's nothing, they're gone, they're gone forever. And there's the mindless violence that's connected with it, so it's a very frightening thing, and it's a multi-generational crime, multifaceted. Multi-generational.
Well, yes, it would affect everybody. Did you find that the association was of a great help to you at that time?
Yes, they were marvellous, and it was very early days, and I think we were doing a lot of things for the first time, and now of course we've moved on, and it's all these years later, 14 or 15 years later, and the association's professionalised and moved on and grown, but basically the bottom line is still helping people, and the very bottom line is listening to people.
Okay. Now, they're professional people accessible through the association, psychologists, psychiatrists, lawyers, etc.?
Yes, all the mental health professionals are accessible through our association. But there are also people who are just, trained to listen to people, they're not necessarily professionals. They do our training program, they answer the crisis line, they're there to listen and take the details, and then if you need to move people on to further therapy, then that's done too.
Okay, so there is a counselling line some people can call.
Oh yes, there's a 24-hour counselling line.
Well, that number's actually on the screen as we speak, but because we can't see it, we're not going to fumble over it. So we'll put it up on the screen for you.
Yeah.
Now, funding for the victims of crime, is it from government level or is it?
Yes, it's government funding.
So they're full support from the government.
Yes.
So it doesn't have any external funding requirements where it's got to go raising money and.
Yeah, we still do that.
So you still do that, but
Yes.
you do have good government support.
Yes, we have government support.
Could you do with more?
Yes,
Always
most
the way,
certainly.
isn't it?
Most certainly.
I'll have a word to Peter next time I run it on the
Good,
campaign trail.
yeah.
I'll say, Bud Green here, Pete, give more money. Give more money.
More
to the
money
group.
for Victims of Crime Association.
So someone could help by ringing this number as well.
Oh yes,
For donations and that sort of thing. Now,
certainly.
where about the group itself? Can people just come along and assist if they want, or come and just be part of it if they feel they could be of help? Or
In actual fact, we get a lot of requests like that, but what happens is people who volunteer their services must do the training program. They must have a completely clean police record.
Good.
Yeah, well, it takes into account offender issues, etc. for victims. And, yeah, they do our training program. We train people for court support too.
That's more important than you think. I remember there was a group of male abuse victims where there were issues of pedophiles being on the group when these were men who were trying to deal with the abuse they suffered with as children, and you just don't know the impact of that.
Yeah,
until you
got to
see
be
them talk.
very, very careful. We are very careful.
You need to be.
Oh yes, yeah.
Need to be. Thanks, Carmel.
Oh, lovely talking to you, Tamara.
Very serious issues we've had, especially with your son Lance.
Well, yes,
so recently.
I'm very proud of him for the way he's coping with this, the anti-violence project, etc. He's turning something negative into a positive. The thing he's manifesting, though, is the best thing that I think we can help people with through the Victims of Crime Association is empowering them to help themselves. That's the best thing we can do for people.
Because being frightened to go out again is not the answer.
You can't constantly support forever. You must empower people to move on and help themselves, or you really aren't doing a good job.
As you've obviously done.
I hope so.
It must be hard, though.
It's very hard, quite often. But I was left with a beautiful girl to rear, my granddaughter Ophelia, and we've done a good job together, I think, of rearing each other.
Good. Thanks, Carmel.
Thank you, Tamara.
Just on to me now, Mr. Cameron. A bit more sad news this week. June Salter passed away last Sunday. Now, June was a friend of mine. We interviewed June last year for the show For the Sound of Music. We're going off now to see a repeat of the interview with June. And we're back, and we're still here with the lovely Carmel. That was fabulous, wasn't it? Now, Mavis Bramson, that brought a little tear to your eye when I mentioned that word, didn't
Well,
it?
I was very sad when I heard she died because it was my favourite TV show.
Didn't you know she died?
I did, yes.
I was going to say, I didn't want to shock you with the
No,
news.
no, I was just really, really sad about that. She was marvellous. And Mavis Bramston was like this breakthrough when it first came on Australian television. It was sort of the first satirical, I suppose it was a pre-runner of Fast Forward. And
Fond memories of Mavis and June. And
very
Carol
fond
and Barry
memories.
and
Lots
Gordon.
of laughs.
Too many.
Yes.
Too many. Every time June mentioned it, her eyes lit up too. It was good.
Yeah.
So it was fantastic.
She must have had good memories of it too.
Yes, she did. Great television for her. Plus she was the great cabaret singer at the time.
Yeah.
So good stuff. Well, that's the end of the show. Fun and games. We'll have the number for the victims of crime on the screen again, and I will talk to Lance further about the Anti-Violence Council here in Queensland, and hopefully we can get something happening or improve what's already here, because I must admit I don't know if it is here.
Good.
We'll see what's happening. Time to go. We really must smack that naughty clock that says it's time to go. Move the camera, thank you. Please move the camera. Shake it round violently. Oh, he's learning. We really must smack that naughty clock that says it's time to go. But we'll be back again next week, same time, same place, with a brand new show. Don't forget to be watching next week when all the stuff goes on. And cut!